Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome everyone on behalf of Toronto Community Benefits Network. My name is Vani Dayalan. I am the Senior Management Consultant at Toronto Community Benefits Network. I have here with me Sharon Barney, who is the Diversity and Inclusion Consultant, who will be helping us lead the facilitation today. Sharon, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Varney. I'm so delighted to be here, and I'm so delighted to welcome everyone to the Building Diversity Awards 2021 information session. My name is Sharon Barney, and I'm a diversity and inclusion consultant, as Varney mentioned. I have worked in the construction industry for more than 20 years as an owner, and I was active in operations. However, I decided to leave the field and help organizations drive performance through respect, diversity, and inclusion. So let's begin then. TCBN strongly supports reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, and their land acknowledgement reads as follows. By acknowledging the land, we are reminding ourselves of our human connection and responsibility to care for the land. It also serves as a reminder that First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples are still negotiating their inherent rights to the land and their relationships to the state, relationships that have been extremely fraught and violent, and trying to truthfully integrate back into the historical narrative of this country. I encourage all of our participants to have a look at locallove.ca to find out more about local initiatives and reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. So then let's get started on the agenda today. So first we will have a look at Toronto Community Benefits Network. Who are they? What is a community benefits agreement? And what do we mean when we talk about benefits? We will then have a look at the Building Diversity Awards program. We will first have a look at the Global Diversity and Inclusion benchmarks. These are the benchmarks that are used to help decide the winners in the Building Diversity Awards. We will then have a look at the BuildForce Respectful Workplace Online Self-Assessment Tool. This is the tool that nominees will be asked to complete in Step 2 as part of the nomination process. And then we will look at the details of the process to apply for the awards. And then finally, we will have a wrap up and look at the next steps and where we go from here. So then who is Toronto Community Benefits Network? Toronto Community Benefits Network is a foundation. It is a community labor coalition of more than 120 members. It was incorporated as a nonprofit in March 2014. It serves Black, Indigenous, and racialized residents, including youth, women, newcomers, and veterans. The goal of Toronto Community Benefits Network is to negotiate community benefits agreements to secure good jobs and economic opportunities for the community from investments in infrastructure and urban development. TCBN runs a number of very successful programs. It has programs to introduce youth to the trades and provides job-ready skills and peer mentors to help them to succeed. They also advocate and negotiate for professional, administrative, and technical jobs. They also encourage social procurement, meaning that they advocate and negotiate for project owners and contractors on these projects to procure products and services from local community businesses. And finally, TCBN works to advocate and negotiate neighborhood and environmental improvements, such as green space, or community services, such as recreation and daycare. So then what is a community benefits agreement? Well, it's a legally binding document negotiated with the community with commitments for local social jobs and procurement opportunities. It provides oversight by the community throughout the project life cycle through monitoring, evaluation, and enforcement mechanisms. Toronto TCBN is built on a foundation of equity, diversity, and inclusion. and works collaboratively to bring the benefits of diversity and inclusion to everyone it works with, including contractors. Community benefits in Toronto has a strong historical foundation. Residents in neighborhoods across Toronto have been advocating for decades for community benefits built on the foundation of the work that Indigenous peoples have done of negotiating impact benefits agreements when developers build on their lands. Toronto Community Benefits is involved in a number of very important projects in Toronto. And these are the Eglinton Crosstown LRT, the Finch West LRT, the Rexdale Casino Woodbine expansion, and the West Park Healthcare Center. In each of these projects, TCBN has negotiated for 10% of all trade or craft working hours for apprentices and journey persons to be recruited from historically underrepresented groups, such as Black, Indigenous, and other racialized people, such as women, newcomers, and veterans. So then who benefits from community benefits agreements? Well, first of all, governments benefit. All levels of government recognize the skills shortages and the need for job creation by connecting more workers to local jobs in the skilled trades. Governments are realizing that community benefits don't cost, they pay, in terms of improved economic outcomes that help communities to be more resilient, less dependent on social service dollars, and provides the skilled workers our growing economy needs. Any contractor who wants to bid or work on any of these projects will benefit by understanding community benefits agreements and the collaborative role played by TCBN in meeting the diversity requirements in CBAs. Unions and contractors benefit because they will win the war for talent by creating inclusive workplaces that welcome members of underrepresented groups into the industry. Extensive research shows that organizations that are more diverse are also financially more successful. And finally, local communities also benefit. In Toronto, women, newcomers, and racialized people represent 50% of the population as well as across the province as a whole. They experience low rates of participation in the construction industry, a growing source of well-paid jobs. Why is attracting a diverse work important? Why should a contractor care? Contractors and unions face growing trade skills shortages as 250,000 baby boomers have begun to retire. And women, newcomers, and racialized people represent a pool of highly motivated workers who can fill the shortage. These members of these groups have not traditionally worked in construction simply due to barriers such as a lack of awareness about skilled trades work. They don't usually have contacts in the industry, and they experience bias and stereotypes about their suitability for construction work. Yet research shows that people from underrepresented groups are highly motivated to be successful. And once they find out about skilled trades work, they are motivated to join the industry. Younger workers also represent a pool of well-qualified workers. Millennials and Gen Z workers make up about 86% of the workforce, and yet younger workers don't see construction as a desirable career. And one of the reasons for that is that they don't see construction as a diverse and inclusive industry. Yet younger workers want to work in diverse and inclusive workplaces. Younger workers are almost 3 times as likely to stay 5 or more years at a diverse company than at one that is not seen as diverse. In addition, Millennial and Gen Z workers want to work in organizations that reflect their social justice values, free of systemic racism and discrimination. They want to work at good corporate citizens. Why is building a diversity awards program important? First of all, it recognizes those contractors, unions, and communities in Ontario that are leading the way by working together to increase diversity within the construction industry. The awards also build awareness of the role that TCBN plays in helping contractors and unions benefit from diversity. The Building Diversity Awards are part of TCBN's commitment to partner with the construction industry to support and advance diversity and inclusion. The awards also promote the use of world-class best practices that can be adapted to any industry. TCBN is a leader in promoting the use of these world-class standards in managing diversity and fostering inclusion. And finally, the awards inspire the construction industry to do more to attract and hire historically disadvantaged communities and equity-seeking groups. How do we nominate an organization and what awards are available? Well, there's a Leading on Diversity Award for an owner client. This is a government agency issuing contracts for publicly funded construction projects. There is also a Leading on Diversity Award for contractors. This is for a contractor, either an organization or consortium, or a subcontractor that is carrying out the work. There is also a Leading on Diversity Award for unions. Construction trade union supplying the labor for a publicly funded project. And who can nominate an organization? As we shall see later in the presentation, the nominator should be familiar with the organization's diversity and inclusion initiative in order to answer a few pre-qualifying questions on the nomination form. But we will delve into that in the next few slides. There are also two awards for individuals. One is the Community Benefits Champion. This award recognizes an individual working in Ontario for any one of the following organizations: a private developer, a local union, municipality, government agency, school board, academic or health institution who is making extraordinary efforts to help underrepresented groups, to ensure that underrepresented groups are accessing and succeeding in the construction trades through community benefits agreements in Ontario. There is also a Next Gen Builders Champion for a mentee or mentor. This award recognizes a mentee or mentor from the workplace or from TCBN's Next Gen Builders Mentoring Program. This is a mentor who has excelled in supporting the professional growth and development of a mentee, or for a mentee who has experienced exceptional progress in taking the steps needed to succeed in a trades career. The timeline for the awards is as follows. Right now, between November 2020 and April 2021 is the nominations process. Award nominees will be taking one or more steps from the Global Diversity and Inclusion Benchmarks, the standards for organizations around the world as adapted by BuildForce Canada for the construction industry. And we'll have a look at those a little later on in the next few slides. In December 2020 is the industry launch at the Building Show, starting on November 30th to December 4th. And finally, on May 13, 2020, is the awards presentation. This is an evening to celebrate leadership and excellence in the construction industry. You are invited to enjoy an unprecedented online experience. What is the process to apply for the Building Diversity Awards? The awards recognize organizations in Ontario that have implemented best practices leading to greater diversity and inclusion in their workplace. Best practices will be those adapted by BuildForce Canada for the construction industry from the Global Diversity and Inclusion Benchmarks. Let's have a quick look at the GDIB. These are the benchmarks used to help decide the winners of the Building Diversity Awards. This is the Global Diversity and Inclusion Benchmark, or sometimes called the Pyramid. The GDIB is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to supporting and advancing diversity and inclusion around the world. It groups all business functions into 4 areas that impact the level of diversity and inclusion in a company. The GDIB emphasizes that diversity and inclusion must be approached holistically, and our audience members can see that various functions in an organization are grouped around the center and designed to interact with each other. I encourage our audience members to have a look at the GDIB. You will be provided the link for that on our later slides. What is the process for applying for the Building Diversity Awards? The process asks organizations to tell TCBN about the steps they are taking to build a diverse workforce by completing an online nomination form in step 1. This step can be completed by anyone. An individual can nominate an organization, or an organization can nominate itself. However, the nominator should be knowledgeable about the organization's diversity and inclusion initiative so that they can answer a brief checklist and provide a brief description of 200 words or less about the initiative. The form includes a checklist of questions specifically designed for the construction industry by BuildForce Canada in the BuildForce Canada Respectful Workplace online self-assessment tool. Let's have a look at that checklist. These statements are taken directly from the BuildForce self-assessment and reflect some of the practices that TCBN supports in its work with governments, contractors, and unions to recruit and embrace the diversity of their local workforce. For example, the first statement, your organization establishes relationships with local community groups to advise on effective recruitment and retention policies and practices. On the nomination form, you will be simply asked to answer yes or no. In step 1, you are also given the opportunity to provide a description in 200 words or less of what your organization is doing in terms of diversity and inclusion. After completing step 1, the contact individual receives an email welcoming them to the Building Diversity Awards and is invited to complete step 2. In step 2, nominees are asked to complete the BuildForce Canada Respectful Workplace online self-assessment tool. It is recommended that someone from management or the management team or someone very knowledgeable about the organization's diversity and inclusion initiative complete the online self-assessment tool. TCBN will provide an orientation to the tool and be on hand to answer any questions as you complete the assessment. And once you complete the tool, you will receive feedback on your progress in using best practices to create a diverse and welcoming workforce. Let's have a look at the BuildForce self-assessment tool. This is the first page of the BuildForce Canada Respectful Workplace online self-assessment tool. It is the only online management self-assessment adapted for the construction industry. It provides a standardized, objective assessment of the work that organizations are doing to manage diversity and foster inclusion, and as such facilitates a fair assessment of nominees. However, the BuildForce self-assessment is also extremely useful for organizations because it allows them to compare themselves anonymously to industry averages in the BuildForce database. It provides a fantastic baseline tool the first time that you do it, and you are welcome to complete it as many times as possible. It allows an organization to also see its progress over a period of time, whatever time period they choose, and that can help an organization to see where it's going and to chart its course. When you complete the BuildForce online self-assessment tool, you receive a printout called the maturity curve, and this is what it looks like. It will tell an organization, based on your responses in the online self-assessment, where you stand in comparison to other organizations of similar size. For example, this organization is at the proactive level. An organization could be at the progressive level or the operational excellence level, depending on their answers to the questions that are asked. The goal of the BDAs is to support and encourage more diversity and inclusion in the construction industry, and this online self-assessment tool helps them to do that. So after you complete the assessment and you receive your maturity curve, you will be more knowledgeable about your stage of diversity and inclusion in your organization. And this is one of the goals of Toronto Community Benefits Network. Rosemary Powell, the Executive Director of Toronto Community Benefits Network, says, "We recognize the role that TCBN can play in helping organizations to be more successful through the diversity and inclusion provisions of community benefits agreements. The takeaway from this presentation today is that organizations who work with TCBN will be ahead of the curve. Community benefits agreements are becoming more common on infrastructure projects, and organizations that want to tender or work on these projects will benefit from participating in the Building Diversity Awards. By applying for a Building Diversity Award, you will build your awareness of the diversity and inclusion provisions of community benefits agreements. TCBN wants you, contractors, and our audience to consider Toronto Community Benefits Network as a partner and resource in building diversity and inclusion at your organization. They want you to embrace diversity and inclusion as a strategy for improved organizational outcomes." So then, how do we wrap up and what are our next steps? Toronto Community Benefits Network is planning to make the awards an annual event, so they hope that you will join them this year and in coming years. They want to build on the foundation of the diversity and inclusion best practices developed under community benefits agreements. They also want the industry to strive for continuous improvement in diversity and inclusion, and this is one of the reasons that they want to make the BDAs an annual event. In sum, then, we really look forward to seeing all of you, all of the nominees, at the online awards gala on May 13, 2021. I promised earlier in our session that we would provide the links to the various resources that we've referred to in the presentation. I want to draw your attention to these following links. You can nominate your organization for a Leading on Diversity Award by completing the online application at www.buildingdiversity.ca. You can also learn more about the Global Diversity and Inclusion Benchmarks at the Center for Global Inclusion.org. You can learn more about Community Benefits Agreement at the TCBN website, which is communitybenefits.ca. We also want to draw your attention to the opportunity to train your team by purchasing pins for the BuildForce Canada's online course called Working in a Respectful and Inclusive Workplace. TCBN is now an e-learning distributor for this course. And I should note to our audience that when someone completes the Working in a Respectful and Inclusive Workplace, they then are able to qualify for 1 credit toward their Gold Seal certification. So I really offer that course to anyone in the audience who wants to learn more about working in a respectful and inclusive construction workplace. And you can place your order for that course through TCBN at www.employerportal.ca/e-learning. So we now have some time for questions, and I wonder if there are any questions. Barney, do you have any questions?
Yes, Sharon, there are some frequently answered questions that I would like to voice out here for you to answer.
Right?
One of the questions that we usually get from contractors is there a fee for nominating my organization or another contractor organization?
No, there's no fee. It is an entirely free process. And so therefore, there's no reason why you shouldn't apply.
Is it possible to print out the list of questions before completing it? Because I may want to see the set of questions before completing. I don't want to make a mistake. So this was another question.
Yes, yes, and I completely understand that. There will be a guide posted in the nomination page shortly, but in the meantime, it is possible to simply print out the form right from the website. So I do recommend that. Just print it out, and you can look at all the questions, you can work on them, and you can develop your, your description of 200 words or less in advance, and then go back into the process.
Thank you, Sharon. I also have another question. Is there a deadline to be a sponsor? Like if there is a contractor who's interested in being a sponsor for this particular, award, it's a prestigious award we see, but is there a deadline for being a sponsor?
No, there's no deadline at this point. TCPN would love contractors to sponsor the awards. And it's a great benefit for contractors to be a sponsor because it will build their brand as a diverse and inclusive employer and will be able to attract, win the war for talent and win those ever highly talented individuals who will make great workers.
Thank you. And there's a final question. My company is interested in hiring more people from diverse backgrounds. Is there any particular tool or resources that Toronto Community Benefits Network can provide me with?
Yes, absolutely. TCPN has created the tool called the Employer Portal, where job-ready candidates are listed for employers to search and hire. And I think we had that link in the previous slide as well. It is employerportal.ca. So I recommend that everyone in our audience check it out.
Thank you so much, Sharon.
Okay, great. Thank you, Barney, for all those questions. We're just about finished up. I think our last slide is our partners that we want to acknowledge. TCBN would not be as successful as it is without all of its amazing partners, and we want to acknowledge all of them. And we also want to thank you, everyone in our audience today, and really hope that all of you will be nominated, be part of the Building Diversity Awards program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shannon. I would like to thank everyone who attended the orientation today for the Building Diversity Awards on behalf of Toronto Community Benefits Network, and we hope to connect with you soon again. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.